Hey guys, how's it going? Today we've got several things to work on and it's supposed to be gorgeous today. 64 is the high. You can see we've just got kind of a little bit of clouds. It's really nice. But we've got some boxwoods to plant in these containers. We've got a couple of trees to put in the ground, and I'm hoping to plant some bulbs as well. This is where we're gonna start. You can see some of the pots have boxwoods, some of them do not. It's amazing to me how things work out sometimes. So we had the 14 pots out here, and right about the time when I was wanting to fill them for fall and winter, the previous year I had done greens and branches, and it takes a lot of greens and branches to fill up pots this big. So I didn't really want to do that again, but we needed to dig out a bunch of plants behind the gazebo to make way for the Hartley and that whole new garden area. There happened to be 14 boxwoods sitting back there. So I thought, well, this is perfect. I have to dig them up anyway. May as well dig them up and put them in these pots. And I knew that some of them may not survive. I wasn't able to get huge root balls on some of them. So 4 of them, you know, we've got 4 pots that are empty here. But then we had to, in order to put the new brick sidewalk from the driveway up to the back kitchen entrance, we had to dig out those 6 circle boxwoods from underneath the Norway maple, which they were all intermingled, you know, all the roots together. So again, we weren't able to get a huge root system on each one of those, but we potted them all up. 2 did not survive. So I happen to have 4 sitting here that are gonna go in these pots. And look at these. They're like the perfect size. They're not the same variety, but who cares? I mean, they're far enough apart. I don't really think you're gonna notice a huge difference. I think these are either green velvets or green mountains. The ones I've got out here are winter gems. So we've got 2 pots here, and then there's 2 just kind of scattered in there. We put purple fountain grass in the empty ones this summer. So we had 2 boxwoods, fountain grass, 2 boxwoods, fountain grass, and it was fine. And I do think we are gonna take these out in favor of doing something different next year. And we'll plant them out in the landscape, but it's kind of nice to have these great big evergreens so I don't feel like I need to fill them with a bunch of stuff. So there we are, the winter gems right there. They fill up the pots just so beautifully. And I think they're the right scale for this area. You can put little Christmas lights on them and they just look really good. Most of these have a good side. Like this is a good side. This is a pretty good looking side right here. This one is maybe the poorest looking one of all of them. So we're gonna have to face this away from the driveway possibly, but I think the other side looks okay. Yeah, that's not too bad. And these pots still have quite a bit of soil in them. You know, I should probably go grab a shovel and then we can get these in. And there's really not a whole lot to this process. This part of our day is not gonna take us very long. So I'll go grab a shovel. We're gonna put some biotone in the pots and just get these potted up and watered in. All right, guys, all the pots are filled. They're not all the same size, but who cares? At least there is a plant in every single pot, and it gave those 4 boxwoods a more permanent winter home. I guess not a permanent home, just a winter home. It's better than those smaller plastic containers. They've got a lot more insulation around their root balls, so I think they will be quite a bit happier sitting over here. One of the things that I like about this variety of boxwood that we planted in here today is that where they were before, they tend to keep their winter color better than the winter gems and the sprinters have for me. Those 2 other varieties tend to bronze a little bit more in the winter, which is totally fine, but these always stay so nice and deep green. And that's why, and like I said, I don't know if these are green velvet or green mountain, but that's why I went with the green velvets around the Hartley, because I'm hoping that they maintain that deeper green through winter, and they do stay a little smaller, which is good too. Look at that. Isn't that just so pretty? Now this winter gem right here is the one that's struggling the most, and I kind of wish it was at the end. But this side looks good. Like it's growing and green. This side, there's like a definite like struggle going on this side right here. Now these did have spider mites along with everything else last year, so you can still see some of that damage. And I'm hoping, like you can see new fresh growth coming. So I think it'll rebound, but yeah, it's kind of a strange one. And you guys, the trees that we're gonna plant today are right down here, and the electricians are here. They are trenching some new lines in this new garden area. Aaron is like the master planner when it comes to getting electricity and water to the right areas in the landscape. So we know that we may want to do a pond in this back corner, also Christmas lights, and then we may do a fountain on the other side of it. So we just have a line coming from the barn over to this far side to give us the ability to do that later on. And it's best to do it now, you know, when everything is just open and clear, because they have just kind of a clear shot to run a trench. So you can see the trench right here. You can see one of the trees we're gonna plant. We might wait until they're done right here to plant this tree, but this one is a type of Zelkova. It's called a Musashino columnar Zelkova, 45 feet tall by only 15-foot spread. And the fall color is just phenomenal. Look at that orange. Just gorgeous, especially when you compare it to that blue spruce right there. That's one of the new ones. That orange and the blue, just opposites on the color wheel, and they look so great. There's also a thundercloud plum right here, so we get the nice purple. The weeping willow there will give us the nice yellow fall color. And then of course we've got the Norway spruce. This one was installed in May. And then just beyond it, we've got the second tree we're gonna plant. This is another columnar variety. It's a type of birch. It's called a Dakota pinnacle birch. So you can kind of see there on the tag what kind of form it's going to have. So again, 15-foot spread, 40 feet tall, bright yellow fall color. It's resistant to the Japanese beetle for those of you guys who have those. But I think that this one's going to be great. And right down the line, we've got a triple trunk royal frost birch and another Norway spruce. We'll be planting another something right in here, probably a blue evergreen of some kind, maybe with a weeping habit. Aaron kind of dumped a bunch of compost. We've got to spread this out on top of the soil here. And then if we go down further, you've got another blue spruce, a smoke bush. There's a hibiscus that blooms white with a red throat in the back corner. Austrian pine, triple trunk birch, blue spruce, and so on and so forth. So our goal in the end is to have just a very beautiful mixed border of evergreens of different colors and structures, and then different colors in the fall with deciduous trees, and then also some summer blooms and some spring interest. It's gonna take a little bit to get it there, but I think this is such a great start. Like standing back, you can see those two colors right in there. Dang, the sky is beautiful today. Look at that. I think all the colors are just going to be beautiful, and the fact that those stay so narrow, it's kind of a good one to tuck back because they won't go over into our neighbor's yard. I think Aaron wanted to be involved in this part of the project, so I'm going to let him know that I'm ready to plant the trees. All right, trees are in. They look awesome. Oh, so fun to see what the fall color looks like. Honestly, if you have a garden center that is open year round and you can go down and visit to look at what specific things look like throughout the year instead of just seeing them in the spring, it's just so fun. I mean, that's what sold these trees to me. I just saw them and I thought that is exactly the color I want in that spot. And the growth structure too. And I think I forgot to mention the Zelkova is hardy to zone 5, the birch is hardy to a zone 3, and both varieties typically do really well in our area. My parents have a large Zelkova right below below their swimming pool area. It's a wireless alcova, and I can't remember where it tops out at height. It might stay a little shorter than this one, but it grows way wider, and it's got kind of like this horizontal branching pattern. It's just the most beautiful tree. And then of course the birch not only gives you the beautiful fall color and the beautiful catkins, which I can show those to you, but that also will give us the beautiful white bark. And they get more white with age. You can see that this one is starting to lighten up a little bit. Here are the catkins. It looks so gorgeous. Beautiful, beautiful color. And I'm not sure if you can tell, but we did plant them a little high. Erin likes to err on planting everything a little bit high because we do like to put, I mean, we've got mulch nearby. As soon as the trench is all filled in, we'll cover with all this compost that's sitting here. There's a pile right there. So we typically like to bring some of that in on top of the root ball as well. But it does facilitate water drainage away from the trunk of the plant, which is nice. And you know, things do settle too, so it helps with that. And we are freezing at night now. I think the lowest we've been is 27, but we keep planting until the ground is frozen, because these plants, they'll do way better in the ground as opposed to being wintered over in the thin plastic nursery containers. There's just so much more insulation when you get them, you know, soil all the way around their root balls and get them tucked in for the winter. Okay, now we need to go load up bulbs and start planting behind the Hartley. Got all my bulbs here, and what I want to get done today is planting all of the tulips that are going in each one of these squares back here, and then the bulbs that are going on either end of the Hartley. So here's what we've got, and this is actually the tulip that I ordered the most of. It's a variety, they say it sounds like sauna, like closest to sauna. I'm not really sure though. I've got 200 of these to go in each one of these squares. It's going to be spectacular. They bloom mid-season. They're around 20 to 22 inches tall, and they're a two-tone pink, like kind of a deep pink with a softer pink edge. And I think they're gonna look just so beautiful back here, especially planted in mass. I'm so excited about it. I'm going to start with the first one and see how many bulbs feels comfortable. I think I can get 200 in there fairly easily though. And then on the end of the Hartley, I actually got some alliums, some Globemaster alliums. I love those. I overshot, I think, on the amount that I can fit in there because they do grow quite large. Like the foliage on the base is quite large. I was gonna put 50 in each one of these beds. Let me show you how big these beds are. I think I'm gonna go with 25. We'll lay them out though and see what we think, because we could always plant the extras around the maples. Yeah, I don't know. 50 in there I think would look way too crowded. So if we did 25 in this bed along with the tulip that I have to go with it, which is a pure crisp white called Clearwater. And I think it's a late blooming tulip, and alliums do bloom very late. I don't know if there's going to be any overlap, but I think it was our best shot at getting some overlap color there. But I think that the Clearwater will just sit right below those big beautiful purple globes, and I think it would be a beautiful mix. But that leaves us with what? How many to plant around the maple trees of the alliums? You have 50 left over, 12, right? Maybe I can do 26 in each end and then do 12 around each maple tree. That way to draw a little bit of that interest out. That might be kind of pretty. So this is the size of the tulip bulbs here. I'm gonna see if I can get away with using this smaller auger. I'm not sure what the diameter is, but whoops, whoa, here it goes. I'm gonna roll onto the ground. There we go. I think we might be just about right. This is one of the bigger tulip bulbs. It'd be a lot easier just to pop some small holes in the ground. The Clearwaters look, maybe there's some larger ones in there. Those are a little bit bigger. We'll see. The Globemasters though, I will have to use our 3.5 inch right here, because these are kind of big. So the Globemasters, you can see this darker end right here, and there are like some little hair roots. That's the root side. And there's like a tiny little blunt point right there that is pointed up. And we plant these 7 inches deep. And the tulips we go in about 6 inches deep. What I typically do is I go in, especially if I'm planting kind of willy-nilly and there's no real design and they're just going out in little drifts, little clumps here and there. Usually I go make my holes, I pour my bulb tone in, which I have here, right there. And then while I'm still standing, I hold onto my bag and I just toss bulbs in the holes. So I'm not bending over to put any bulbs in the holes. And in the very end, I go through and I tip the bulb if it needs to be tipped, and I cover it with soil. That's usually kind of my assembly line approach to planting bulbs. It goes a lot faster. In this case, because I don't know exactly how they're going to fit in, I might line all my bulbs up on the top of the soil surface and just tap them out of the way with the auger and make my hole. So it's going to be a little bit more work, but I think in the end, especially because this garden is so formal, it would look good not to have them come up, you know, in a jumble. Real quick, I wanted to show you how I ended up laying out this bed because I used less tulips and less alliums than I had planned on. So I thought 50 alliums in the beginning. I only used 22. So those are the larger ones. And I did one row of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I did a row of 5 that kind of goes in between. So there's 1, 2, and then this one sits kind of in the middle. And then another row of 6, another row of 5. And then tulips, I used 82. So I went with about 3 tulips in each gap. And then I tossed a few toward the back. So I think that will work out really well. I think they'll all have room to shine. So now I'll just have to scoot them out of the way with my auger and make my hole. Shouldn't be too much of an issue. Bulbs are in. I didn't use quite 200 tulips in each one of these squares. And the first bed, it went pretty well. It was the hardest of all the beds when we were planting the boxwood, and I kind of wanted to start with that one just to get it over with. So it was a little bit hard to aug the holes, but I feel like it went pretty well, but kind of slow. So when I did the second bed, I tried a different method, you know, to be more efficient and quick. And I think that that one might be total chaos in the spring. I don't know. So this is the bed I started with, and I made 12 holes with the auger just in a line. And then I put the bulbs in them because I thought, well, you know, when I make my next row of holes, it's going to kick soil back in, and I don't want to have to be digging that out. So that worked pretty well. So it was 12 holes, 11 because I went in between the holes. from the previous row, and then 12, 11, and so on and so forth until I had to start making my rows shorter. So, you know, every time I got a row done, I would put the bulbs in and move on to the next one. So when I got to my second square, I thought, well, what if I did every other row of holes? That way I can, you know, zip a bunch of holes in the ground at the same time, and they'll be far enough apart that they won't kick soil back into, you know, the holes next to them. And then when I'm all done with that, I'll go back and do the rows in between. Well, the soil ended up being so fluffy in this one in spots that there were a couple of areas I'm not even sure where the holes were by the time I got, you know, to the second row or the rows in between. So I just kind of popped bulbs wherever it made sense. I just thought, you know what? I ended up putting about the same amount of bulbs in here, so it's gonna look really similar unless you're like really splitting hairs. In the end, I figured if there are some tulips that look a little bit thick in some areas in this one, I'll just use them for cutting and cut them out and put them in a bouquet, maybe in the Hartley. But the other two beds, I went back to the first method of planting and did one row, put the tulip bulbs in, did the next row, and so on and so forth. And it actually went really quickly after I was done with that. So both beds on either end and all four of these are done. And on a different day, I will probably figure out where I want to put the rest of the alliums and the other tulips that match these. Maybe around the maple trees to draw some of the interest like I mentioned earlier. I'm just not sure yet. But anyway, I am happy with the amount we got done today. That's a huge check mark on my bulb list. I still have a lot of bulbs to plant, but this was a really important one to me. I really wanted to get this one in the ground and ready to go for spring. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.